Last month, a woman named Linda emailed me at 2:14 in the morning. She's 58, works full-time, and takes care of her 2 grandkids. Her message was short. I'm eating better than ever. I walk every day, but my belly just keeps growing. I'm exhausted. What's wrong with me? When I read her email, I knew exactly what was happening, because I've seen it hundreds of times. And here's the shocking part. Her problem wasn't her diet. It wasn't her workouts. It wasn't even her age. It was her stress. Or more accurately, a single stress hormone that was quietly running the show, day and night, storing fat right where she didn't want it, around her belly. Most people think stress just makes you feel tense. But after 40, stress can completely change how and where your body stores fat. And the worst part? You can be doing everything right, eating healthy, moving more, and still be stuck. Today, I want to pull back the curtain on exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how to flip the switch so your body finally feels safe enough to let go of stubborn fat. I'm not going to ask you to starve yourself, or spend hours in the gym, or take some magic pill. Instead, I'm going to show you 5 science-backed steps that calm this hidden fat-storing signal. Steps that have helped men and women in their 50s and 60s lose inches off their waist, sleep better, and feel more like themselves again. But before we jump into those steps, you need to understand exactly what this hormone does inside your body. Because once you see how it works, everything about your weight loss struggle will finally make sense. Let's start with what cortisol is, and why it's not the villain you think it is, until it is. The hidden reason your belly fat won't budge after 40. Most people believe belly fat is simply about eating too much or not exercising enough. But for many men and women over 40, that's not the real story. You can be eating salads, skipping desserts, walking every day, and still see the number on the scale stay stuck or even creep up. I see it all the time in my clinic. A few months ago, I met Robert, a 62-year-old retired firefighter. He'd cut out fast food, started walking his dog twice a day, and even joined a light exercise class at the community center. 3 months later, his arms looked a little more toned, but his belly? It hadn't budged. He was frustrated, and honestly, a little embarrassed. He kept saying, "Doc, I must be doing something wrong." But he wasn't. The problem wasn't his willpower or his routine. It was what was happening inside his body. After 40, your body's chemistry changes in ways most people never talk about. One of the biggest players in this change is a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol's job is to help you survive danger. When you're late for a meeting, get stuck in traffic, or hear bad news, your brain tells your adrenal glands to pump out cortisol. In small bursts, it's helpful. It releases stored energy so you can react quickly. But when cortisol stays high for too long, which is common in our busy, deadline-driven, always connected lives, it flips a switch in your metabolism. Instead of burning fat, your body starts saving it, especially right around your belly. And this isn't just surface fat you can pinch. Cortisol encourages the storage of visceral fat, the kind that wraps around your organs. Your body sees this as the most efficient place to keep fuel on standby in case you need to fight or flee. The trouble is, your body can't tell the difference between running from a bear and rushing to answer 72 emails. The effect is the same. Your system thinks it's in danger, so it keeps you in fat storage mode. To make matters worse, high cortisol breaks down muscle tissue, which slows your metabolism even more. So now you're burning fewer calories at rest, you've got more fat stored around your middle, and your body is craving quick-hit carbs and sweets for emergency fuel. This is why so many people over 40 feel like their body has turned against them. They haven't changed their diet or activity that much, but there is. Why cortisol is not your enemy, until it is. When most people hear the word cortisol, they instantly think bad. They picture it as this villain that sneaks into their body and forces fat to pile up around the belly. But that's not the full story. In fact, cortisol is one of the reasons you're alive right now. It's your body's built-in alarm system, the chemical messenger that helps you react in a crisis. Picture this. You're hiking and suddenly hear a loud rustle in the bushes. In a split second, your brain triggers your adrenal glands to release cortisol. Your heart rate climbs, your blood sugar rises, your muscles get ready for action. That's your survival system doing its job. The problem isn't cortisol itself. The problem is when that system gets stuck in the on position. Let me give you a real-world example. A patient of mine, Carla, is 55. She's a middle school teacher, and her days are non-stop, from grading papers late at night to managing a classroom full of teenagers. Every day, she's in go mode. Her body responds to each little stress: a disruptive student, a staff meeting running long, even hitting a red light when she's late, as if it's that rustle in the bushes. The difference is, there's no quick escape, no real cool down. Her cortisol stays elevated hour after hour. In a healthy rhythm, cortisol peaks in the morning to help you wake up and get moving. Then it slowly declines through the day, hitting its lowest point at night so you can rest and repair. But under constant low-grade stress, that curve flattens out. Instead of a nice morning spike and a calm evening, you get a steady trickle. Enough to keep your body in alert mode all the time, but not enough to give you real energy when you need it most. That's when the helpful side of cortisol turns into a roadblock. Your body thinks fuel should be stored, not burned. Your cravings shift toward quick energy: bread, pasta, cookies, because cortisol is telling your brain, we might need to run any second. And because muscle is expensive to maintain, your body quietly starts breaking it down, leaving you with a slower metabolism. The insight here is powerful. Cortisol is not the enemy. It's a safety tool your body depends on. The goal isn't to get rid of cortisol. You can't and you shouldn't. The goal is to restore its natural rhythm, so The 7 signs you're stuck in stress mode. If you've been feeling off for a while, tired, craving certain foods, gaining weight in places you never used to, you might be wondering if stress has more to do with it than you thought. The truth is, chronic stress doesn't always feel like a racing heartbeat or sweaty palms. In fact, for many people over 40, it sneaks in quietly, showing up as small, everyday symptoms that are easy to brush off, until they add up. Let's walk through the 7 most common signs that your body might be stuck in stress mode. As I go through these, keep count of how many sound familiar to you. First, belly fat that won't budge. This is the big one. You might be losing weight in other areas or at least holding steady, but your waistline keeps expanding. That's because high cortisol encourages visceral fat storage, the type that settles deep around your organs. Second, afternoon energy crashes. You start the day okay, but sometime between 2 and 4 p.m., you hit a wall. You might grab coffee or a sugary snack just to keep going. This isn't just getting older. It's often a flattened cortisol curve, leaving you without a proper energy rise in the morning and a healthy drop at night. Third, cravings for sugar or salty snacks when you're tired or stressed. Cortisol pushes your body toward quick-burning fuel. The more you give in, the more your brain learns to expect these foods as a solution to stress. Fourth, restless nights or trouble staying asleep. Even if you fall asleep fine, you might wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. with your mind racing. That's often your stress response still running in the background. Fifth, brain fog or forgetfulness. Cortisol affects the hippocampus, the part of your brain that handles memory and focus. That's why you might walk into a room and forget why you're there, or struggle to stay on task. Sixth, overreacting to small stressors. Things that used to roll off your back, a long checkout line, a minor delay, suddenly feel overwhelming. This is a classic sign that your nervous system's off switch is weaker than it used to be, so cortisol stays elevated longer after a trigger. Seventh, slow recovery from setbacks. This could be physical, like feeling sore for days after a light workout, or emotional, like taking longer to bounce back from an argument or disappointment. All of these signs point to the same Finally see that belly fat start to move. Why dieting harder or exercising more can backfire. One of the most common mistakes I see, especially among people over 40, is assuming that if the weight isn't coming off, the answer must be to eat even less or work out even more. It feels logical. If you cut more calories and burn more energy, the fat should come off faster, right? But when your body is already in stress mode, this approach can do the exact opposite. Let's start with crash dieting. When you suddenly slash your calories, maybe dropping to 1,000 or 1,200 a day, your body doesn't see it as being disciplined. It sees it as a threat. From an evolutionary standpoint, a sudden drop in food means famine. And when your body thinks food is scarce, it doesn't burn fat, it stores it. It also slows down your metabolism to make the energy you do have last longer. I had a patient named Denise, 49, who was eating about 1,100 calories a day, tracking everything meticulously. For the first 2 weeks, the scale moved. But by week 3, her energy plummeted, her sleep worsened, and the weight loss stopped. Why? Her cortisol levels had spiked, telling her body to hold on to fat and burn muscle for fuel instead. Exercise can be just as tricky. Don't get me wrong, movement is essential for health and weight loss. But long, high-intensity workouts, especially when done daily without enough recovery, can keep cortisol elevated for hours afterward. That's fine for a 25-year-old with a quick stress off switch, but at 50 or 60, your recovery window is longer. If you never let your body fully calm down, you end up layering stress on top of stress. I remember working with Paul, a 56-year-old who started doing 2-hour gym sessions 6 days a week after watching a fitness influencer online. Within a month, he was constantly sore, exhausted by mid-afternoon, and his belly fat hadn't changed. His body wasn't getting stronger. It was stuck in a constant repair mode, which meant it had no energy left for burning fat. The lesson here is simple but powerful. More is not always better. When cortisol is already high, both crash dieting and overtraining send the same message to your body. We're under attack. And a body that feels under attack will do everything it can to conserve energy and hold on to fat. That doesn't mean you should stop exercising or ignore your food choices. 5 proven ways to tell your body the bear is gone. When your body thinks there's a bear in the room, it shifts all its priorities towards survival. The trick is teaching it that the danger is gone, so it can relax, rebalance, and start burning fat again. These 5 science-backed strategies do exactly that. They send safety signals to your brain and hormones, helping to reset your metabolism without extreme diets or exhausting workouts. First, reset your cortisol rhythm. Your body has an internal clock, and light is its main reset button. Getting 10 to 20 minutes of natural sunlight within an hour of waking tells your brain it's morning, which helps cortisol spike when it should and drop when it's time to sleep. Pair that with cutting caffeine after 2 p.m., turning off screens by 9 p.m., and going to bed at the same time every night. I had one client, Maria, who simply stopped her late afternoon coffee and started her mornings with a short walk outside. Within 2 weeks, she was falling asleep faster and waking up with more energy. Second, move to reduce stress, not add to it. Walking is one of the most underrated tools for lowering cortisol. Just 30 to 40 minutes, a few times a week, can drop levels by up to 20%. If you can walk after meals, even better, because it also helps control blood sugar. Add in 2 short resistance training sessions per week, bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, or light dumbbells, to protect muscle and boost metabolism without overtaxing your system. Third, eat to fuel, not to starve. Severe calorie restriction spikes cortisol and slows your metabolism. Instead, aim for 3 balanced meals each day with protein, healthy fats, and fiber-rich carbs. For most women, that's 1,600 to 2,200 calories. For men, 2,000 to 2,600, adjusted for activity. Skip the constant snacking. Every bite can trigger a small cortisol rise, and focus on real, whole foods. When you feed your body well, it stops clinging to fat for emergency storage. Fourth, support your liver, your built-in detox and cortisol clearance system. Your liver helps deactivate and remove used cortisol. Start your day with lemon water to stimulate bile flow and give your adrenals a hit of vitamin C. Include choline-rich foods like eggs and broccoli, and consider liver-supporting herbs such as milk thistle, dandelion, and artichoke. Happens when you combine these strategies consistently. One by one, they start to flip your body's switches back to a healthy rhythm. Energy in the morning, calm at night, muscle protected, and fat burning restored. Next, I want to show you what this looks like in real life, with people who've made these changes and finally seen their stubborn belly fat melt away. Real people, real changes. It's one thing to hear the science. It's another to see what happens when real people put it into action. Over the years, I've watched men and women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s completely change not just their waistline, but their energy, sleep, and confidence, all by calming their stress response and working with their bodies instead of against them. Take Mary, 52. She'd been walking on the treadmill for an hour every day and eating as little as she could manage, yet her belly stayed the same. She was tired, moody, and constantly craving sugar. We made 2 small changes. She swapped her morning treadmill session for a 20-minute outdoor walk right after breakfast, and she added 2 short resistance workouts each week. Within 6 weeks, her cravings eased, she slept through the night for the first time in years, and she'd lost 3 inches around her waist, without touching her calorie count. Then there's Mike, 60, who came in with high blood pressure, borderline blood sugar, and a stubborn gut that seemed immune to every diet trend. He thought he needed to go harder in the gym, but we did the opposite, cutting his intense sessions down to 30 minutes and adding in daily post-dinner walks. We also focused on balanced meals instead of low-carb extremes. 3 months later, his doctor reduced his blood pressure medication, his fasting glucose was normal, and his belt was 2 notches tighter. Carla, 55, a teacher, used to joke that she ran on caffeine and nerves. Her afternoons were a blur of grading papers and grabbing quick snacks just to keep going. We focused on resetting her cortisol rhythm. No coffee after 2 p.m., screens off by 9, and a consistent bedtime. The first change she noticed wasn't her weight, but her mood. "I didn't snap at my students for the first time in years," she told me with a laugh. By month 2, she'd lost 7 pounds, and more importantly, said she finally felt like herself again. What's striking in all these stories is that none of them involved starvation diets, boot camp workouts, or complicated meal plans. The results came from sending the right messages to their bodies: light, movement, nourishment, recovery, and calm. Once their systems felt safe, their hormones fell back into rhythm, and the weight started to come off naturally. That's the lesson I want you to take away. You're not broken, lazy, or doomed by your age. Your body is wired to protect you. Your next step: walk your way to fat burning. If there's one simple habit that ties together everything we've talked about so far, lowering cortisol, protecting muscle, improving energy, and shrinking belly fat, it's walking. Not powerlifting, not endless burpees, not training for a marathon, just walking. But here's the part most people miss. How you walk, and when you walk, can dramatically change the results you get. Think of walking as a signal you send to your body. A slow, steady walk after a meal tells your muscles, "Use this fuel now," which helps flatten blood sugar spikes and prevents your body from storing that energy as fat. A morning walk in natural light says, "It's daytime, let's set the clock," helping reset your cortisol rhythm. Even a short stroll before bed can help your nervous system wind down so you sleep deeper. I've seen this work in real life over and over again. One of my clients, Daniel, 58, had been doing high-intensity spin classes 3 times a week. He was fit but constantly sore, sleeping poorly, and frustrated that his waistline wasn't changing. We swapped one spin class for a 25-minute walk after dinner and added a 15-minute walk after lunch. Within a month, his cravings were down, his sleep improved, and he'd lost nearly 5 pounds without touching his diet. The science backs it up. Research shows that post-meal walks can reduce blood sugar spikes by up to 30%, which not only lowers fat storage, but also helps keep cortisol in check. And you don't have to walk for hours to see the benefits. Even 10 to 15 minutes after each meal can add up to a powerful change over time. The key is consistency, making walking a non-negotiable part of your day, just like brushing your teeth. Here's my challenge to you. For the next week, add one purposeful walk to your day. It could be first thing in the morning to set your cortisol rhythm, right after dinner to help with digestion and fat burning, or even at lunchtime to clear your head. Notice how your body feels, not just your waistline, but your energy, your mood, and your sleep. When you realize how much such a simple habit can shift your health, you'll never look at walking the same way again. And this is just the start. In the next video, I'm going to show you 8 specific walking hacks, backed by research, that can help you burn up to 20% more fat without walking longer or faster. We'll cover key takeaway: safety first, fat loss second. If there's one thing I hope you remember from everything we've talked about, it's this: Your body will only let go of stored fat when it feels safe. For many people over 40, weight loss stalls not because you're eating too much or moving too little, but because your system is living in a constant state of brace for impact. Cortisol is simply doing its job, protecting you from what it thinks is danger. But when that danger is an endless to-do list, skipped meals, late nights, and intense workouts with no recovery, your body doesn't get the all-clear it needs to switch into fat-burning mode. I've seen this transformation happen time and again. When people shift their focus from punishing their bodies into submission to reassuring their bodies they're safe, everything changes. Energy returns, sleep deepens, cravings fade, and yes, the belly fat finally starts to move. Think about it like a trusted friendship. If your body doesn't trust that food will come regularly, that it will get enough rest, that stress will pass, it holds back. It saves. It prepares for the worst. But when you consistently send it safety signals, balanced meals, restorative movement, quality sleep, moments of calm, it starts to believe you. It loosens its grip. One of my clients, Janet, 61, told me, "The moment I stopped treating my body like an enemy to conquer and started treating it like a partner to protect, I stopped feeling like I was failing, and the weight came off without me obsessing over it." That shift in mindset is powerful. Because the truth is, fat loss is not a battle to be won. It's a byproduct of living in a way that keeps your body's stress response in balance. You've now learned why cortisol matters, how to spot when it's out of control, and practical ways to reset it. You've also seen real people make these changes and reclaim their health, their confidence, and their energy. So here's your takeaway. Prioritize safety signals first. Lower stress, protect muscle, balance your meals, move in ways that restore you. The fat loss will follow naturally, and it will be sustainable because it's built on a foundation your body trusts. And remember, you don't have to change everything at once. Start with one habit from what we've covered today. Maybe it's that morning walk in the sunlight. Maybe it's turning off screens an hour before bed.